Hello everyone, so in this video we are going to be talking about Yoruichi. Now initially the video was meant to be a discussion about her Zanpakto, and still kind of is, but I believe that that cannot be done without also having a discussion about her standing and status in the Seirete or Soul Society. I realize that people have already discussed her Zanpakto on YouTube and forums, but what made me want to make this video was something I realized that was largely left out and possibly never mentioned in the discussions. Let's call that my theory, and you'll find out why it's likely false, but interesting nonetheless. And as always, the timestamps will be in the comment section. I know I ghosted you guys on the previous video, but I promise I'll have them on this time. So the theory I had was developed because of something Soifon said way back in the Soul Society arc in her fight with Yoruichi. So Soifon informs us that when the commander of the punishment force draws her sword, the person she is fighting must be executed, and then over a dozen assassins appear to execute Yoruichi. So I thought to myself that the commander of the punishment force has some sort of GPS, a kind of location detecting device embedded on her Zanpakto, so that her location is known and she can be reached should she actually draw her sword. And this system actually makes a lot of sense because the punishment force are an organization of assassins and are proficient in Hakuda, the martial arts, and flash steps. They don't need a Zanpakuto to carry out their job, so if the leader were to draw their sword, it would mean that the enemy is very dangerous. Now, basically what I'm saying is that Yoruichi's location could have been known if she carried her Zanpakuto around. However, this theory only makes sense up to and maybe a little further from the Soul Society arc. It only makes sense if we were to go back to like 2005 or something, because now we have a complete Bleach story, which raises the problem as to why she did not use her Zanpakuto later on in her fight against Aizen and her fight against Askin, for example. And that is what we are going to be discussing. And for that to make sense, we need to talk about the structure of the Gotei 13. Yes, you heard that right, the Gotei 13. The Gotei 13 is basically a military force that is under the authority of Central 46. I'm going to be giving an analogy so this explanation is simple and understandable. So let's say you were a king and had an army of 13,000 soldiers. It would be difficult to control, monitor, and manage these 13,000 soldiers all on your own. So what you do is you divide them by 13 and allocate one captain for each 1,000 soldiers. And this captain manages these 1,000 soldiers, and now instead of speaking to 13,000 soldiers, you refer to only 13 captains. And each of those captains refers to or manages 1,000 soldiers, thus building a hierarchical order. These are what the divisions of the Gotei 13 represent. How does this relate to Yoruichi, you might ask? If you were paying attention, you'd realize that when I was speaking about Yoruichi and Soifon, I did not mention Squad 2, or the 2nd Division. What I talked about was the punishment force, which is part of the stealth force, aka the Onmitsukido. The Onmitsukido and the punishment force are not, I repeat, they are not the same thing as Squad 2, and that is what we will be discussing now. Just like the Gotei 13 is an organization under Central 46 with Yamamoto but now Kyoraku as its commander, what you need to realize is that the Gotei 13 is not the only organization under the Central 46. The Stealth Force, or the Onmitsukido, is another organization that is under the authority of Central 46, with Yoruichi but now Soifon as its commander. It's similar to how the Kido Corps are separate from the Gotei 13 but are under the authority of Central 46 nonetheless. The Onmitsukido even has their own separate symbol to further showcase that they are separate from the Gotei 13 and Squad 2. Just like how the Kido Corps have their own logo. It's similar to how in real life you have an Air Force and then a Marine Navy and so on and so forth. Okay, that's enough. You get the gist of what I'm trying to say. The Stealth Force and Onmitsukido are interchangeable, by the way. One is the English translation of the other. I'm telling this because I'll be using both in case you get confused. The Onmitsukido, aka the Stealth Force, is not the same thing as Squad 2. I'll keep saying it until it's drilled into your heads. Now, as mentioned before, Yoruichi was the commander of the Stealth Force or the Onmitsukido and probably was the commander of the Stealth Force before she became the captain of Squad 2. She was the commander-in-chief before she was the commander of Squad 2. She was the commander-in-chief of the Stealth Force before she was the commander of Squad 2. Now, similar to how the Gotei 13 has 13 divisions, the Stealth Force has its own inner divisions. The Gotei 13 has 13 divisions, the Stealth Force has 5 divisions. Now, in the show, we have been introduced to and have come to know only 3 of those 5 divisions closely. The most important being the first division, which is the Punishment Force, and those are basically the assassins. The third division, which is the Management Force, which was led by Kisuke. The fifth division is called the Inner Court Troops. Basically, do you remember those messenger guys that had like a hooded headpiece? Those are part of the Stealth Force as well, and those form the 5th division. The 4th is unknown, and the 2nd is the Expedition Unit, whose job is to gather intelligence, and they are led by Marechio Omaida. Yoruichi was the commander-in-chief of all of that. And then this happened. So for whatever reason, we don't know how or why, the commander of the Stealth Force, which was Yoruichi, became the commander of Squad 2, and the tradition continued with Soifon, as Soifon was also both the leader of Squad 2 and the Stealth Force. Now we don't know if Yoruichi was the first commander of the Stealth Force that was also appointed a captain in the Gotei 13. What I'm basically trying to say is we don't know if she's the first that was doing 2 things at the same time, being both the commander of the Stealth Force and a captain in Gotei 13. We don't know. But when Yoruichi became the captain of Squad 2, the Stealth Force and Squad 2 became merged. Now officers of Squad 2 ran the Stealth Force. For example, Kisuke was part of Squad 2, but also served as a commander of the 3rd Division in the Stealth Force due to this merger. A similar case is when Kisuke made the Research and Development Department, while also being the captain of Squad 12, thus merging the 2, where you had Hiyori, for example, in the Research and Development Department. She was assisting in that department. So, much like how not everyone in Squad 12 is a scientist, not everyone in Squad 2 is an assassin either. Now, I have mentioned all of that because I think that it follows from their function. It follows from their function that these different organizations have different standards for what is required to be part of them. Shinigami have 4 types of approaches for combat. Number 1, Zanjutsu, which is the skills with regards to Zanpakto, like swordsmanship, Shikai, and Bankai. Number 2 is Hakuda, basically unarmed fighting like martial arts. And then Hoho, lol, Hoho. Anyway, Hoho, which is the flash step, Shunko, and the speed techniques. You think that this class is just one thing, but we have seen some variety, like Soifon's clones and Byakuya's speed technique that leaves his garment behind, which he says he's learned from Yoruichi. And finally, number 4 is Kido. What I'm trying to get at is that these different organizations seem to prioritize different combat techniques. The Gotei 13 seem to prioritize Zanjutsu, like you won't go far if you cannot use Shikai, for example. So let's say someone goes to the stealth force and says, hey, I have the strongest Zanpakto and can even use Bankai, but I'm super slow and suck at Hakuda or martial arts. That person would be laughed out of the stealth force, but could well be a captain candidate in the Gotei 13. We could even see that Yoruichi walked around for the most part without carrying a Zanpakuto, and neither did most members of the stealth force or the ninjas that were around her. Also, neither do members of the Kido Corps carry a Zanpakuto. However, here's the important fact. They are all Soul Reapers. All of them are Soul Reapers, so it is part of standard practice that they must carry a Zanpakuto. Because at the end of the day, that is what Soul Reapers do. That is their job. They reap human souls. They reap hollows. They reap Arankars. Now, the next segment will discuss a further reason as to why I think her Zanpakuto is not very relevant to her. The leader of the Shihoin clan is called the Tenshi Hisoban. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which translates to the guardian of the imperial soldier garments. Much like how the Shiba clan specialized in fireworks, the Shihoin clan were basically protectors of treasured items and tools that are said to be bestowed to them by the gods. And Yoruichi was the 22nd head of the Shihoin clan and the first ever female head of the Shihoin clan. Now, throughout the show, we have seen how the Shihoin clan had access to a multitude of different weapons, extremely powerful and useful weapons to add to that. The garment that allowed Ichigo to fly, and the other bone-like device that forms wings and allows you to fly, and then the most impressive one was the Shihoin shield that yeeted the Sokyoku. The Sokyoku that was said to have the power of like 36 million Zanpakutos or something. Now, as a side point, Yoruichi's brother Yushiro actually brought another item, which I suppose is a Shihoin item as well, but we never really saw what it can or does do, unfortunately. And given the track record of the Shihoin items, it would have been very impressive to find out what that or those items were exactly. Now, I'm bringing this up because I see that if Yoruichi has access to many such powerful tools, then it truly makes sense in the story that she would not view a Zanpakuto as a necessary weapon in her arsenal. So we don't know if members of the noble clans go through the same training as normal soul reapers, like going to the academy and so on, or whether they have their own training courses and techniques by which they make themselves stronger and don't really rely on the Zanpakuto system. Because also, mind you, the Zanpakuto itself is a tool that was made by Nimaya. And this is something else that I'd also like to find out, because Nimaya did not really seem all that old. And I'd assume that the Shoin clan is much older than Nimaya himself, so they probably rely on tools that are much older than the Zanpakuto. Anyway, and finally, let's discuss the cat in the room. This is not even really a discussion because it's not really clear. There isn't much to be discussed here. Yoruichi can transform into a cat, and has this lightning Shunko that transforms, or rather gives her cat aesthetics. The thing is that the cat ability is actually a Shunko technique, by the way. For those that are wondering, this is not a completely different technique. It's a Shunko technique, which raises the question as to whether Soifon and Yushiro could evolve or transform into a similar type of transformation. We really don't know. Or is it a mixture of her cat transformation and Shunko? And also, hold on a second. Why the fuck can she transform into a cat in the first place? Now, some might say it has something to do with the beast species like Komamura, but I cannot say much on that because we do not have enough information. I don't know. Maybe Kisuke ran an experiment on her, considering he could control her transformation. It's anybody's guess at this point. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think. Comment and let's discuss in the comment section. And see you guys in another video. Bye.